Summertime on the Beaches Lake, there's lots and lots of fish to catch up shallow. Fishing with 6 mils or even 4 mils up shallow with either a jigger rig or a fixed rig can catch a lot of fish. Fishing out maybe 13 or even 14 metres away from the bank side and maybe feeding this line for the first hour and a half before you go on it is a good ploy to get the fish confident. While you're feeding this line, it's easy then to fish a short line where you can throw pellets or even corn by hand for a short line. It's very easy to fish on this line and also catapult out to the long line to keep the fish in the swim. Feeding every 60 to 90 seconds out on the long line is important to keep them fish in the swim, ready for you to catch once you move out from the short line. The later stages of the match, there'll be some fish coming to the margins and you're looking to fish in quite shallow water. If you look to fish in maybe 18 inch, even as shallow as 12 inch in the margins, if you can find this depth, will be a great way to fish with a fish meal type ground bait, and also maggots or corn is a good bait to fish. Fishing with quite a big hook, a size 12, and fishing with either 2 or 3 pieces of corn or a bunch of maggots on the hook is very good. The other bait that's worth considering on this lake is worms. Maybe 2 worms on the hook. Big dendrobinas can also be good because the smaller silverfish won't attack a big bait and you can catch the carp on big bunches of worms. So these are 3 really good methods to fish on this lake. Shallow with pellets, a short line also with pellets, and then down the margins with ground bait, corn and maggots is a great way to catch a big weight on this lake in summertime. Summertime on Bennies. This lake is absolutely stuffed full of F1s and these are your target fish to build a weight. Fishing shallow is really the only way to catch a weight big enough to probably win the match. These fish, when they're up shallow, feed very aggressively, so fishing slightly heavier hook lengths than what you'd fish with normally for F1s, maybe 013 or even 015 Drennan Supplex fluorocarbon, would be the perfect hook length line to fish for these fish. Fishing with a jigger or a fixed float and feeding either casters or pellets can be fantastic. There's another bait that also works very well shallow on this lake, and that's maggots. Throwing an amount of maggots can also catch a lot of fish when it gets to the summertime. So that's 3 ways to fish to try and build a weight. It's important to get yourself set in the right manner to catch these fish. You'll need 3 keep nets often on this lake, and it's very consistent, the catch all the way around, so don't worry about the peg that you've drawn. There will be fish in front of you. So having 3 keep nets and split your fish is quite important come the weighing. There's quite a few carp also in this lake now, and they are quite a big size, and fishing close to the bank and being quite aggressive with feed during the latter stages of the match can catch a few carp if you're in trouble catching F1s. This lake, you've got to get yourself the mindset right to catch fish. Get everything set with your rollers and everything right so you can catch very quickly. But don't overdo things with elastic. F1s sometimes tend to pull off, so you don't want really heavy elastics. Maybe a yellow type bungee is strong enough to catch these fish. If you try to fish too heavy, you'll just pull off them all the time, which is not what you want to do. So just get the mindset of catching steady through the match and you'll have a good weight come the end. Summertime on Laurel's Lake, you're often looking to catch quite big weights. To catch a big weight, you need to keep things quite simple. On this lake, there's a few pegs where you can reach the island. Peg 15, peg 19, peg 30, 39 and 40, you can all reach with a pole to the island. And this is a great place to fish because you're accessing the shallow water, and this is where the fish want to be in the summertime, in the upper layers of the water. Fishing here with banded pellets, maybe 6mm pellets, and feeding 6mm pellets via a pot or pinging them with a catapult can be a great way to catch a big weight. The start of the match, often you can catch fish short for a period, and throwing pellets from the hand, either 6 or 4s, and fishing on the bottom short is a great way to start. Once these fish have been caught at the start, often they move out of range for a period during the match. This is when either shallow fishing can be good, or also fishing on the bottom out quite long, somewhere between 13 and 14 metres. And pellets are the #1 bait on this line. Often 4s or 6mm pellets, and fishing a hard banded pellet shallow will catch both carp and F1s. But beware, on some days the fish want to be on the bottom, so always set a bottom rig up to go on the bottom on this line as well. Sometimes a method feeder can also catch quite big weights. When the fish are not feeding quite so well, often they back off to the islands that's further out from the bank, and casting a method feeder, still a smallish method feeder, maybe a 30 g type feeder, up against the bank side can be very good to catch these fish, fishing with either maggots on the hook or pellets, or even small boilies can be good to catch the carp and F1s. On this lake you're looking to catch quite a good weight, so with this in mind you have to think about fishing in the margins in the last hour and a half of the match. And here you're looking to fish in the shallow water, so often ground bait and bunches of maggots are a good way to catch these fish close to the bank. If you're getting pestered by silverfish, corn, either feeding corn via a pot or fishing double corn on the hook can be very good also. Summertime on the bonsai is when the big weights are recorded. Weights in excess of 200 pounds are often caught on this lake. To catch a big weight you need to keep things quite simple. A good starting ploy is to fish quite short, loose feeding maybe 6mm or 4mm out of the hand. So it's a way to build a weight very quickly, short in, maybe 4 or 5 metres out from the bank. And fishing a banded hard 6mm pellet on the bottom is a great way to start. Once you've caught a few fish off this line, often the fish back off. If you can reach an island with the pole, fishing with 6mm pellets and maybe loose feeding, pinging a few to the island and fishing a banded 6mm to the island can catch some fish. If you're in the open water you need to cast a method feeder into the shallow water to the island. Often ground bait or pellets work very well for this, but fishing slightly heavier than what you would in winter time. An 0.15 or 0.16 hook length and maybe a 16 hook to target the carp and F1s is a good way to fish. There's also, you can catch shallow also in the open water. So if the wind allows you to fish well up in the water down the middle track of the lake, then fishing shallow with either 4mm or 6mm hard pellets, a banded 4 or 6 on the hook, can catch a lot of fish fishing shallow. The latter part of the match you're looking to the margins, and this is where a lot of the big weights come from, fishing down the margins. Fishing down the margins either with ground bait and maggots in the shallower pegs. If you're fishing in the deeper pegs, corn and pellets work also in the deeper pegs very, very well. So to build a weight, keep things quite simple, but try to keep putting fish in the net during the match. A great way to fish on the bonsai lake. Summertime on this lake is when the carp really kick in and want to feed well. Probably the main method to catch them is fishing with waggler out at distance, and fishing with a waggler with 8mm pellets in the upper layers of the water is a great way to fish with a pellet type waggler. But not too big a waggler, maybe a 4g or even a 5g waggler is the right size to fish with. And don't fish too heavy a main lines. If you fish a real heavy main line, it's difficult to cast that waggler out. You want a main line of 4 or even 5 pound is maximum that you want. So loose feeding 8mm pellets will catch these fish. Also on a pole, you can fish a pole out at distances maybe 13 to 14 metres and fish with quite big pellets on the bottom. Feeding 8mm pellets is more selective than the smaller sizes of pellets, so fishing an 8mm pellet on the bottom will also catch the carp, and it's these fish that will build a big weight for you to win the match in the summertime. You've also got to consider the margins. These fish in the latter stages of the match will come into the margins to feed. And corn and ground bait, maggots will catch these fish in the margins. Fishing with maybe 2 or 3 pieces of corn on the hook will be more selective to catch the bigger fish. These fish can run quite big. Double figures up to like 17, 18 pound is possible on this lake. You don't need many for a weight, so be patient. Also, you can catch these fish quite late in the match, so you're never out of it. Always be considering the margin line as where you're going to catch some fish late in the match to build that winning weight. In the summertime on the strip, the fish want to be up in the upper layers, and fishing shallow is the right thing to do on this lake at some point during the match. Sometimes it's a good starting ploy to fish short to start with, feeding maybe 4s or 6mm pellets, fishing on a kitten 1 or a kitten 2 close to the bank, and fishing with banded pellet at the start of the match, but all the time loose feeding to fish shallow, round about 13 metres out. If you feed for maybe an hour while you're fishing short and catch those fish short close to the bank to start with, to build a weight, it's better to get the fish confident with fishing shallow out long after about an hour and a half into the match. Feeding every 60 seconds or maybe a little bit longer, 90 seconds, with either 6mm or 4mm pellets will be a great way to build that swim out long. So once you're fishing short, it's easy to hold the catapult and keep pinging a few pellets out to the distance that you want to fish. Once you get an hour and a half into the match, you can have a look on this line, and fishing a banded pellet around about sort of anything from 6 inch to 2 foot deep is a good way to catch the F1s. Sometimes the jigger rig is very good because the line is kept tight all the time through a jigger type float. Can be good in the summer months, but often a fixed rig also can be good. So fishing a fixed rig can also, and slapping that rig regular to catch the fish and attract the fish's attention, is a good way to target the F1s and carp. So that's 2 very simple methods. Fishing shallow out long and fishing with pellets out of the hand short is a great way to fish this lake. The other thing to consider later on in the match is the margins, and the margins on this lake are quite deep, and often bigger baits, either corn or even 8mm pellets in the margins to try and target the bigger carp can be good when it's warm in the summertime. This lake is difficult to fish feeder on because it's quite a narrow lake, and feeder in the summer time's not as good as what it is when it gets to the later stages when the water's a little bit colder, because a lot of the fish want to be up shallow. So that's the best way to fish on this lake, is to target those shallow fish and the fish short. Willers Lake in the summertime is a lake where F1s feed very, very well. You're looking to catch these fish in the upper layers, and often they'll come quite close to the banks. If you've got a little bit of room, sometimes you can catch on 4, 5, 6 metres shallow, and pellets are often the best bait for this line. Feeding 4mm and fishing a banded 4mm on a shallow rig, fishing as shallow as probably 6 or 8 inch deep. Remember, you need 8 inch of line above that float for flicking over and slapping the bait on the surface. Feeding regularly all the time with 4mm, you can catch a real good weight fishing short, shallow. Now on this line I'd also set up a deck rig. If the fish don't want to be shallow or you want to rest that line, you can go on the bottom underneath the pellets, and often catch with a banded 6mm or a banded 4mm will catch F1s through the day. The other line that you need to target is the margin line. The margin line again in the summer is really, really good. And coming right into the margins, if you can find some shallow water and find as little as 2 foot, maybe 18 inch, very, very close to the bank, you can catch very well with pellets down the margin. If not, if you're in deeper water, often you need to catch shallow down the edges. This lake, it's predominantly F1s. There's not many carp, but the carp that you do catch are quite big. But the problem is you need to fish quite light for the F1s. So I'd probably elect to fish maybe an 013 hook length where you've got the chance to land carp and also catch the F1s as well. The other thing to this lake, that there is a lot of fish to catch, so feeding very regular is important. If you can keep pellets going in all the time on 2 lines, a short line in front of yourself out of the hand, or even with a catapult, and feeding down the margin, and feeding regularly will catch your fish all day. You're often looking to catch quite big weights, and this is one of my favourite lakes.